everyone, I got a message from one of my subscribers asking me to make a video on how to explain self-harm scars to children. Now, I did a lot of research and I found basically nothing on the internet telling people how to explain self-harm scars to children. So today I want to talk about my personal experience and advice on how to explain self-harm scars to small children. When I was in my first year of college, I worked at a Bible club on Thursday nights, and I was the head leader. I was in charge of 3 other leaders and 24 small children ages 3 to 5 on Thursday night. So I had them for maybe 2.5 hours, and my first year of college was really the time where I was trying to start recovery for my self-harm. I realized that it's not good for me, I'm not getting anywhere with it, and I need to start recovery. So that's kind of the time when I started my recovery for it. When you start recovery, you have no fresh cuts, you don't have any of that. You have scars, and scars are very, very noticeable when they first start to scar over. I was in this time of my life where I wasn't afraid to show my scars. I wasn't afraid to show anyone, adults, children, anyone, that I went through something traumatic. Now normally when you and I see something different about someone, maybe they're missing a limb or they have a birthmark, we're told not to point it out. We're told not to say anything, not to point, not to stare, or not to make this person feel uncomfortable. But children are naturally inquisitive and ask questions freely. They don't know if it's rude to point out something on your arm. They don't know if it's rude to point out something that's abnormal in their kind of world that they've created for themselves. So they point out things that are different. There's 3 things really you have to take into account when you're talking to a child about your self-harm scars. 1, what is your relationship with this child? 2, what's the age of the child that you're trying to explain your self-harm scars to? And 3, what is their maturity level? These things are really important when you're trying to figure out how to tell, anyone really, about your self-harm. So I'm gonna go over those, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I want you guys to remember 2 things though. Remember that fresh cuts should be bandaged up. This is not about showing your self-harm cuts to children or adults, because that could be really upsetting to people. If you are self-harming and you do have fresh cuts, please bandage them so they don't get infected, because you don't want infections. Infections suck. They just suck. This is not how to show self-harm cuts to children, because that's no. Number 2, I want you guys to keep in mind is there is no shame in hiding your self-harm scars. If you hide them, if you want to show them to people, you have that control, you have that power. You don't have to show anyone if you don't want to. If you want to cover up, go for it. And I'll have a video on that soon. I'm not telling you that you have to show people. It took me many years to even wear short sleeves and stuff like that, and I totally understand that. First off, I want to say I tried to do so much research for this video because I like to find the research out there on websites and stuff, but honestly I couldn't find anything but internet forums and people doing exactly what I'm doing and telling you guys my personal experience, so I hope that's okay. So if you're looking for professional advice, please go seek therapy or go to a therapist or psychologist and ask them these questions, because they have the answers. Telling a child about self-harm scars really depends on a few things, on how to bring it up and how to talk about it. Relationship with the child's age, and maturity level. I feel like those are the 3 basic things that you need to keep in mind. So what is your relationship with this child you want to tell? If you're watching this video, you probably have someone in mind, maybe brother, sister, kids at daycare, maybe you're working at a school, maybe it's your nieces and nephews, maybe it's your son or daughter. It depends on the relationship how to bring it up and what you feel comfortable with sharing. You're going to tell your son or daughter more truthful stuff than you are going to tell children at daycare. Children at daycare, you might brush them off, you might just say it like a little bit, but maybe you want to be more truthful to your son or daughter. Each situation is going to be different. The next thing you should keep in mind is the age of the child. I have more experience on children from 3 to 5 years of age because I worked with them for years and years, maybe 6 or 7 years. When I would work with these children, I don't have a personal connection to these kids. They're not blood related, so I didn't want to be truthful to them. You really should not talk about self-harm, eating disorders, depression, big things like that to children this young. So what I would do, they would say, Miss Kristen, what's that on your arm? I would make up like a creative story to go with it, like a fun story that children would understand. Like, I used to be a lion tamer. I got in a fight with a porcupine. Oh, I got these when I was fighting the fire-breathing dragon to save the princess. I don't need a Prince Charming. You know, I'd make up things like that, and they would go, oh, that's so cool, and then they would go on with their business. So I would make up a fun thing. I would make it kind of fun, kind of silly. You know, I wouldn't really be that serious with children that young. But then I've gotten older children, like, 8 to 12, 13 even. When children are a bit older, they understand a lot more. Like, remember when you were that age? Remember when your parents would say, I'll tell you when you're older, or you're too young to understand, but you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, I understand more than they think I do. With them, I'd be a little more truthful, say, maybe I don't really want to talk about it, or it's something that happened in the past. Things like that, because teens get it. They understand more than you think. Say, oh, I'm a lion tamer. They're like, no, you're not a lion tamer. I mean, you can come up with a more creative excuse, like I fell on a rose bush, I was really bad at cooking, or something like that. I'm gonna have another video on self-harm excuses sometime next month. Look out for that. But if it is a blood-related person, a son or daughter, maybe this is a time to actually talk about life things with them. I don't really believe in lying about my self-harm, even if it's to children. I don't believe in lying. You can bend the truth a little bit, but for children that are older, lying to them, that's just bad. If an older child does come up to me and say, hey, what's wrong? You know, I would first say, hey, it's not that polite to point things out about other people that are different from you. And then I would tell them I had a bad time in high school or a hard time, but now I'm better. And I'd use that as a learning experience, and I've done this for many older children, telling the child that it's not polite to point out things that are different than you and me. It's not polite to do that. Could make it a learning experience to talk about depression, to talk about bullying is a great thing to talk about. Make it a doorway maybe to talk about deeper things that are happening in the child's life that are important. You don't have to take any of this advice. This is just me. This is me just ranting and telling you what I did in the past. I hope this video helped at least a few people. I'm gonna have a video on realistic self-harm excuses coming up in the next month, so I'm really excited for that video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys.